So this will be the last reading for the winter retreat, and we'll be reading from Ovada, the exhortations of Luang Pu Opart. And previously in the retreat, I read, a number of weeks ago, read the first two sections, Buddha and Dhamma. So in this section is Sangha, and then we'll also go into the section after this. Section 3, the Sangha. When it comes to the running of this monastery, of course, there are a number of rules governing the community. However, I do not impose and strictly enforce all of them in each and every single case. I do make some exceptions. I deal with problems on a case-by-case basis. Furthermore, I always forgive everyone for their mistakes. When it comes to the study of Pali, however, all students must be flawless. The work of the Buddhist religion in Thailand or elsewhere in the world is a shared responsibility. We must dedicate our life to help build a foundation for the Buddhist religion, which is not bound by country or nationality, as we are all considered the Lord Buddha's children. Prince Siddhartha practiced extreme austerities for 6 years before he reached enlightenment and attained Buddhahood. He attained the unimpeded, omniscient knowledge, Sabbanyutta Jnanadasana, and the knowledge of the path of Arahanta Magga Jnanadasana. He was later referred to as Master Gotama, or the Buddha. You need to understand that Master Gotama is considered one's father if one is a Buddhist, whatever nationality one is, Thai, Burmese, Cambodian, Sri Lankan, etc. We all are considered his children. Remember this point. We are not another prophet's children. Always be mindful that, as Master Gotama's children, we all adhere to the same code of conduct, no more and no less. All Buddhist householders should keep the 5 precepts. All Sikhamanas must undertake the 6 precepts. All faithful lay followers must undertake the 8 precepts on observance days. All novices must undertake the 10 precepts. No one can increase or decrease these numbers, whether it be Dhammayut order or Mahanikaya order. We are all considered the children of the Lord Buddha. The Lord Buddha was also known as the supreme leader in terms of administration. He allowed a community of monks to appoint officials to handle specific responsibilities. Monks are assigned to various duties within the community. For example, Venerable Sariputta undertook academic-related duties. Venerable Ananda was the Buddha's personal attendant. Venerable Mahamoggallana was in charge of things in which psychic powers were needed. There were also other duties undertaken by his disciples, such as teaching and managing relationships with the lay community. For example, when a Buddhist follower wanted to invite some monks to their house, Venerable Mahapantaka was the one who dealt with the invitation. Then he would assign, for example, 10 monks to go to the dwelling, and perhaps another 10 monks to go to a different place. He was the meal designator, responsible for assigning which bhikkhus would be going to receive which of the meal invitations. Nowadays, the governing body of the Sangha of Thailand, in fact, has adopted the very system laid down by the Buddha himself. They are not borrowing a system from someone else. Most aspects of the administration have been systematized from the Pali Canon. Gaining experiences through the years of administering this monastery has sharpened my eyes. If it hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to administer the monastery. There are 2 kinds of eyes, physical eyes composed of flesh, and inner eyes composed of wisdom. Both types are regarded as the heart of administration. Dasana is the inner eye with spiritual clarity. A leader must not have crossed eyes, meaning inattentive or shying away from issues. A cross-eyed leader can't administer. A leader must have big, one-pointed, sharp eyes, i.e., the ability to be comprehensively observant and insightful. Under improper or perfunctory administration, subordinates are not thoroughly supervised. Although most administrators are able to thoroughly reach out to their subordinates, most subordinates are just not receptive to them. It is needless to talk about administrators that are not thorough. This is important for you all. One day you'll grow up and become a leader. If you do not develop administrative skills now, how can you manage things in the future? you will only be herding cattle. And that's a Thai analogy for doing your job mindlessly. We have to think about this. It's very important. Today I teach, and tomorrow you forget. Things keep going around like this. Today I admonish you, and the next day things are messed up again. When will everything be in good order then? Teachers do not stop giving knowledge. They continually teach, whereas listeners merely listen. In the Buddha's time, his disciples practiced well. There were many more disciples who were obedient than those who were disobedient. This is much different from reality today. I am an old man already, but I am an old man who can still teach and give advice. If my life faculties cease, the advice that I gave to all of you will follow you. As long as I can pass down my teachings to you, I will continue doing so. As long as I can give, I will continue giving. Whether you're receptive to it or not is your matter, not mine. You must cultivate this understanding. If you don't take any of my advice, it will be like tongues and teeth, living together and quarreling. It will be a pity. There are 4 groups of people in this world who are obligated to obey authority: monastics, students, policemen, and soldiers. There's no room for negotiation. They must obey orders. There's no compromise of authority. We have heard that people who have been in the military are highly disciplined, as it is essential that soldiers obey orders. So those who are policemen, those who are ordained, and those who are attending college must obey their supreme commanders, senior monks or headmasters. Whether agreeable or not, they are required to obey them. It's compulsory. College students must abide by the stipulations ordered by the dean. Likewise, in the Sangha, disciples must follow whatever the abbot or the principal has ordered, regardless of their opinions. There's no bargaining. Only in this way, discipline and order can be established. Of course, if it is wrong, we can always contemplate. It's not prohibited. There is always freedom to contemplate. When senior monks ask others to do what is right and proper, junior monks should follow suit. In this way, the Buddhist religion can flourish. In the same way, the university, the police, and the military will prosper. Otherwise, there will exist no order in this world. Nowadays, we practice loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. But most of the time, we don't use them at the right time and place. We must find a balance between gentleness and firmness. It is important to use gentleness first. Whenever rewards are not applicable or effective, we resort to discipline. In the Buddha's time, mild forms of training were often used, yet sometimes teachers were compelled to resort to tougher methods of training. One time, a few monks persisted in bad habits, so the Buddha himself dismissed them amid a meeting of the Sangha. This is evident in the Pali Canon. Why? Such a person, despite being reprimanded repeatedly, can only be a nuisance. Some were even banished from their monastery. Du bacha pugalo is a person who is by nature difficult to teach. To put it simply, what does du mean? It means being difficult to teach, and hence du is a person who will go to hell. And su is a person who will go to heaven. It's as simple as that. Samaganang tapo sukho means if we have unity, living in harmony, there will be happiness for all. Samagi, harmony, is not about getting rid of anyone or harming anyone. Creating a sense of community and harmony is about working together, eating together, sharing things, and resolving issues in consultation with each other. This is called samagi. Harmony is vital, regardless of where you are. If there's harmony, nobody can look down on or destroy us. If we're not living in harmony, other people can scorn, abuse, and divide us. This is very important. Harmony is required everywhere, be it in the lay community, administrations, organizations, or institutions. Where does harmony come from? Firstly, from patient endurance. Secondly, from loving kindness. Without patient endurance and loving kindness, harmony can't exist. Bear that in mind. Patient endurance and loving kindness allow peacefulness of the mind, which will definitely promote harmony. When teachers admonish you, you have to patiently endure even if you feel discontented. Teachers admonish students for their faults. If teachers did not have loving kindness, they wouldn't admonish. It's because teachers express loving kindness for you and believe in you. They offer admonishments to you. On the other hand, if novices criticize the teachers, of course, the teachers will be discontented, but we must also endure those criticisms. Why do they need to endure? This is because students may possess little experience. They don't know any better. If this kind of person criticizes teachers, why should teachers feel discontented? They've got much less wisdom than their teachers. The responsibility of a teacher is to sometimes instruct and to sometimes admonish. Where does the will come from? It comes from patient endurance and loving kindness. Without patient endurance and loving kindness, harmony is impossible. This is something we need to comprehend. Harmony is vital to any society, in any country, anywhere in the world. Without harmony, peace can't be achieved in any country, province, district, or household, nor any monastery. Therefore, harmony is of utmost importance. How to reach harmony? Again, it can be reached through patient endurance and loving kindness. Then, how can one develop patient endurance? Without loving kindness, how can there be patient endurance? So we have to express loving kindness, one aspect of which is the ability to forgive. The term forgivable exists both in the Pali language and in the Thai language. Ka apai is to ask for forgiveness, or ka tot, to apologize. I use those terms regularly. When I make mistakes, I apologize. The ability to forgive corresponds with the ability to endure. Being unable to forgive induces impatience, so loving kindness can't manifest. In a community, senior monks must have loving kindness for the junior, and vice versa. Senior monks live in dependence on juniors, and vice versa. In this respect, we all must endure. Therefore, it is through patient endurance and loving kindness that everything is forgivable, and the harmony of the community is grounded. This is the key point. All of us must understand it clearly. And now it's the next section. It's called Venerable Grandfather. When I decide to do something, I get it done. I never give up. During my whole life, I haven't thought about failure. Whatever I start must get finished. Think, do, and get it done. Until now, I have never failed. I'm not boasting. I'm stating a fact. This monastery that we all know as Wat Jongkam today was totally abandoned amongst the forest when I came. There was no scholastic school here. There was a monk named Pramaha Sanguan Lapotan, who originally planned to come to teach at Wat Bunya Wat Wihan, another monastery nearby. It happened that they somehow didn't accept people from the northeastern region of Thailand. So the education officer of Ngao District, Mr. Sunton Sali, arranged a meeting with him and brought him over here. I spoke with him about the possibility of opening a Pali school here. Later, the Pali school was built, but there was no dwellings for monks and novices to sleep in. So I brought in knockdown houses to accommodate them. You know, it's not only about building infrastructure, but there are also other things to think about. I gradually constructed the monastery, and I never gave up. I had confidence that everything could be achieved. This kind of conviction is very important. All of you have come here to study the teachings of the Buddha. If monks and novices, the faculty staff included, follow the monastery's rules and regulations, I won't be mentally or physically exhausted. None of you have to spend a lot of time listening to my Ovadas, exhortations. Just a few words of advice should be enough. There's no need to go to great lengths, as everything is fine. It must have been burdensome for the Buddha to give exhortations every day. If everyone had embraced his teachings, there would be no one going to hell or the lower realms. Just be mindful of our own responsibilities. I never cease to teach and give advice. My duty is to find a skillful means to teach you. If one method does not work, I try another. I decided to take on this teaching career, so I have a duty to teach. I must fulfill my responsibility. Once you step out of the gate of the monastery, we're no longer related. If you do not want to stay with me, if you do not want to be under my instruction, or if you do not want to follow my advice or the rules of discipline that I have laid down, There's nothing I can teach you anymore. In this way, I no longer have to worry about you. In the past, there was a student who was taking leave of me to stay elsewhere. I gave him a Dhamma talk with advice for a few hours, encouraging him to stay. In the end, he asked to depart anyway. I reflected that it was not his fault. It was mine. He had always wanted to leave, so why did I say anything? I had reprimanded him and taught him a lot already, so in the end, it was actually best to just say, "Good luck." That was it. I felt at ease, and so did he. Otherwise, he was just gloomy. At the same time, I was frustrated as to why he still wanted to leave after such a long exhortation. I was overly concerned about him, but he didn't care much himself. So now if someone does not want to stay with me or has already left, we are no longer related in terms of exhortation, Ovada. I may not be like some other people, but if you stay with me, I take on the duty to teach. If you decide to leave, I do not need to do that anymore, regardless of how close we've been. We go our separate ways, no longer sharing our lives. I always have this will. I want to say to all of you here that when we live together, I must teach and train you. Once we no longer live together, it's done. Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable. I have to continue teaching the other students who are still living here, teaching them how to live, to study, and even how to become teachers themselves. As long as I can do these things, I will. As long as I can look after my disciples, I will look after my disciples. As long as I can protect my disciples, I will protect them. As long as I can defend them, I will defend them. That's my duty to fulfill. I can pass on everything that's related to academic matters. The one thing I cannot teach you is astrology. Apart from that, I can give you everything. I will always pass on what I have learned, although its success has also to do with that person's paramis. Frankly speaking, I have to look into whether or not your parami fits with mine. If it fits, I will give. Owing to an ancient rule, I have to discern situations and factors involving one's parami and one's faith in the practice. Then I can go all out. You have to understand this. In the old days, when Somdet Pra Buddha Jinawang, a senior monk of high ecclesiastical rank at Wat Benchama Popit, told me to wear a yellowish ochre robe, I changed to that color and have been wearing it until now, except for on one occasion, the teacher puja ceremony, the ritual for commemorating one's teachers. On another occasion, Somdet Pra Maharacha Mangalachan, another senior monk of high ecclesiastical rank at Wat Paknam Basi Chalern, told me to wear the robes with a chest strap. I've been wearing the robes with a chest strap ever since then. A long time ago, I told you about one of my teachers who was ordained in the Dhammayut order. I am also a Dhammayut monk. So to follow that teacher's tradition, I've never used an angsa. I am in my 70s already. I still follow my teacher's practices. You know, my teacher used to like sugar apples. Therefore, at the teacher puja ceremony each year, I offer sugar apples when I pay my homage to him. I am that faithful to my teachers. Having trust in all my teachers has brought me great fruit and great benefit. Thus, I've achieved almost everything I've undertaken. Formerly, Wat Jongkam was the smallest monastery in Ngao district. It had been abandoned and left in ruins, and it was probably the worst in the district. There were no fences. There were only 4 trees in total, 2 palm trees, 1 Ceylon ironwood, and 1 roseapple tree. But now we have almost everything. There's a botanical garden even. There was an old hall which had already been sold, so I built a new hall. Now there is an ordination hall. Our monastery received an award for excellence in development, as well as an award for being a community learning center. I personally received the Sema Dhamma Chakra Award, honorary master's and doctoral degrees. The title of Pra-Raja was bestowed on me by the king. How could I receive all these? Because I take advice from my teachers and senior monks. I did exactly whatever they told me to do. I recorded their advice both in my brain and my heart, and I acted on it. Our faces are radiant when we are obedient and deferential. One of the senior monks in Pra province said to me, "Everything else is good except for your eyebrows." In the Burmese tradition, Luang Pu Opat's Burmese, so they don't shave their eyebrows. So I shaved my eyebrows right away. When senior monks tell you to do something, you need to act immediately, as they are expressing loving kindness toward you. You know, I never asked for all these ecclesiastical titles. I never acted like I wanted one, but I have received many titles. Why? Because I listened to senior monks, teachers, and my preceptor. You need to listen to them all. Then you understand their principles. To conclude, all that I have received was the result of taking advice from teachers. Just a few days ago, I was especially happy. Somdet Chuang Warapunyo, the abbot of Wat Paknam, then appointed as acting Supreme Patriarch and head of Dhamma studies, had learned that I was ill, so he wanted to pay a visit. Once I knew this, I made a phone call to a layman in Bangkok and asked if he could pass on a message to Somdet that I had already recovered. Look at how much kindness he had for me. Because of the wholesome karma that I had accumulated, a senior monk was planning to come to visit me and spread loving kindness because I had gotten sick. When a senior monk displays a lot of kindness, how can we still not be living at ease? That occasion made me very happy indeed. At the beginning, the monastery covered only 3 rai of land, about 1.2 acres, but now it covers 280 rai, about 111 acres. You see how the power of single-mindedness can make this all happen. Let me be straightforward with you. I adhere very much to the principles of dignity and authority. Bear that in mind. To me, indignity and undermining authority are serious matters. I never humiliate others so that they lose face or authority. When I make a comment about somebody in a meeting, I apologize beforehand. I always maintain a bowed head humility that expresses respect for others. Most teachers here have been my disciples since they were novices, so I know them well and I can assign the duties to each of them which I consider appropriate. But if they don't carry out what I assign to them, I will be greatly disappointed. This is what I call undermining authority, which is a highly important issue to me. Unlike in Thailand, monks in Myanmar have a lot of authority and power. The culture there is different from here. We can gain more knowledge by learning to recognize the differences between cultures. Also, Buddhist cultures in countries like Sri Lanka, India, Laos, and Vietnam are different. In Thailand, minor difficulties in the monastic life can lead to the act of disrobing. It seems so easy to do. Of course, people do disrobe in Myanmar, but it's not as prevalent. They have a different culture. What I'm pointing to is the sense of authority. Do not destroy the leadership and faith of our preceptors who granted us the going forth. Those who do are those who have no sense of gratitude and respect. Rather, if we take the advice of our teachers, we can really benefit from it. When I was a student, frankly, I used a coconut shell or bamboo sticks as a pillow and used my robe as a blanket. I went through all kinds of hardship greater than what you, novices, are going through now. There were no pens even. I used a piece of chalk. I had to cut a rock into pieces in order to make a slate to use for writing. Going through things like that made what I learned difficult to forget. I memorized verses. I still recall some of them. They are unforgettable. I also memorized parts of the Abhidhamma Pitaka and the Vinaya Pitaka. I still recall Kachayana's grammar, which is a Pali book that most Burmese monasteries start with. When you read a lot, it's difficult to forget. I was ordained as a novice when I was 9 years old. Besides having acquired knowledge of the Pali language, there were other kinds of skills such as construction and administration, which I acquired through helping out in the monastery. Don't be lazy. As we work, we build up experience so we get to manage a situation. We have the experience to do the right thing. In 1994, I was appointed advisor to the monastic head of Lampang province by the Sangha Supreme Council of Thailand. Advising requires experience. I've been serving as an advisor to people for a long time. I'm not saying I'm the best. There are many other individuals that are more intelligent than me, but I seek to gain experience wherever I go. I don't just go places for the sake of going. I always observe and study things. If I want to study people, I really study them. If I want to learn from a textbook, I seriously study it. You know, it's no simple matter to gain experience. It takes effort. So what do I prefer? I prefer to see you diligently studying. I'd like you to read books. I'd like you to pass the exams. I would honestly wish for these things. I don't want anything else from you, be it washing robes and blankets or helping with other miscellaneous things. It's really not required. I prefer you to study and meditate, obey the rules and regulations, and practice the Dhamma Vinaya of the Buddha. Read, recite, memorize the texts. These are what I wish for the most. I aim to cultivate the perfection of the wisdom faculty, Panya Parami. In this life, I've studied to some extent, but in the next life, I want to study more and more. To put it simply, now I have to recite 3 times before I memorize a verse. I hope to recite just once and remember. You may think I do things just for the sake of it. No, I'm cultivating my mind. I always aspire to cultivate the wisdom faculty and dedication to the Lord Buddha. To me, wisdom is crucial, and my students must excel in the wisdom faculty too. That's what I want. You know, wisdom is a light which excels all other forms of light, whether it be sunlight, moonlight, or light generated by electricity. Among these, the light of wisdom comes first. It dispels the darkness of ignorance. Of all attributes in this world, wisdom is the most important. Don't be heedless. Without wisdom, I would not be sitting here. There are 2 channels through which the sasana, the Buddhist religion, is propagated: the lay community and the monastic community. For the lay community, we may travel to this town or that and give Dhamma talks and so on. On the other hand, for the monastic community, be it large or small, it requires continual teaching and mutual admonishments. This is a means to spread the Dhamma, called kindness-based propagation, another way of nurturing the sasana. Nevertheless, the responsibility of teachers, like myself, is to provide their students with knowledge of the Dhamma and to discipline them. This is how the sasana is propagated within the monastic community. At the same time, as people come to see me almost every day, I can also spread the Dhamma to the lay community, another way of propagating the sasana. I try to provide them with both worldly knowledge and always the Dhamma. Our monastic community varies from 150 to 200 members each year. I try to teach and exhort you regularly. There are 2 aspects of development here: the development of infrastructure and the development of human resources. The development of infrastructure is relatively easy. When there's funding, there's building. On the other hand, the development of human resources requires not only funding, but it also requires the integration of 2 entities: the dedication of the developers, or the teachers, and the cooperation of the very people who are the target for that development, the students. When both entities synchronize, development certainly takes place. Clearly, if there is no generosity from the lay community, and there is neither commitment from teachers nor students' obedience, human resource development is very difficult. These aspects of development should not be overlooked. The laity supports us with the 4 requisites. In return, our monastic community is bound to provide them with the Dhamma, the way of practice, and the Buddha's wisdom. Our main purpose is not charity work. Of course, if the lay community really faces scarcity of necessities, we can help as much as we can. It's a meritorious act. But the lay people are capable of earning a living. What's most necessary for them is the Dhamma, because they don't have time to read the canon and study from it directly. So they don't know much about the Buddha's teachings and his sublime wisdom. We, as ascetics and the monks of the Buddhist religion, can help them by sharing the Dhamma, the way of practice, and the Buddha's wisdom. These indeed are very important. When lay people seek advice from us, we as monastics help solve their problems, spread loving kindness, or give them advice as best we can for their welfare. I don't give them 10 kilos of gold or a lump sum of money. If I helped them in this way, those who don't know how to spend money properly would spend it all within a day, a month, or a year. Material things can only provide temporary ease for the mind and body. On the contrary, if we assist them by means of the Dhamma and it is embraced in their hearts until death, they will have full peace of mind and body in this life. And the knowledge of the Dhamma will also follow them into their next life, unless they become a fully enlightened being, in which case there would be no next life. As monks, we do not engage in politics of any kind. Politics is there, but it's not our business to get involved. You know, people come to talk about all kinds of problems to me due to their conviction in the Buddhist religion. I can spread loving kindness and give some well-intentioned advice to the extent my experience allows. As a monk, I always give advice based on Buddhist wisdom, which is highly moral and insightful. Politics is not just about the means to govern, it's also about the means to develop the country. Both aspects go together. So it's not about liking or disliking politics. Yet it's clearly not our business to get involved, as the Buddha states in the canon. The dasana, right view of the Buddha or Buddhist wisdom is magnificent. Therefore, the laity provides us with the four requisites and receives the Dhamma from the monastic community in return. This reciprocal relationship is very important. Why? Reflect on this well. As monastics, we don't have anything else besides the study of Buddhist scriptures and the meditation. Unlike lay people, we don't own factories or rice fields. They offer requisites, so we return their generosity with the gift of Dhamma, which surpasses all other gifts. You see all the vehicles that I use. I never asked for one. These vehicles came through the faith of donors. This is what parami is. We don't say, I want an air conditioner, or I want a car. No, it's not appropriate. It's not necessary. The important thing is that we have parami. We cultivate parami, good karma in the past, accompanied with wholesome thoughts and actions in the present. Wat Jongkam has become a royal monastery in 2006. It was a blessing to the monastery and our community. You must take this into account and honor the fact by learning to know time and place, understanding circumspection, developing virtue and a sense of gratitude. I had been patiently and diligently working until we received the opportunity to be under royal patronage. Today, if even a single teacher leaves, we have to look for a new one. We can only relax when we have enough teachers. The gloomy reality is that it is difficult to find both teachers and students. But somehow I have strange comic tendencies, wasana. In recent times, I found it difficult to get students, yet we did get some. And again this year, I thought it would be difficult, yet somehow we have ended up with more than 100 new students, which was well over the target. You know, I never give up. I've always been painstakingly diligent, like a warrior or a fighter, because I was born in the Buddhist religion. The Buddha had the highest conviction, effort, and wisdom. Effort and diligence, for which I take him as a role model, are important. I'm not trying to brag about myself or praise myself. I know how to live, how to eat, how to sleep, how to go, how to come, how to speak, how to be respectful, how to be humble and polite, but what I don't know is how to give up. When it comes time to get things done, I'm determined. While I preserve my sincere intentions, I always keep my mind pure and steady. Each year when we organize our annual celebration here, I help out as a means to develop parami. Whatever obstacles there are, I have the will to endure them. My attention is mainly directed at work, not at people. If I were obsessed with people, the work couldn't get done. To get the work done requires not only effort and diligence, but also patient endurance. Both qualities together can lead to success. Luang Pu and the faculty teachers are not teaching you for the sake of money. We're doing it with compassion, good intentions, and pure minds. We never wish for anything in return. Our only hope is that you take our advice and bring it into your practice. Even you doing just that is satisfactory. Luang Pu and the faculty teachers share the same mindset on this, and just want to share it with you also, to share what I had been taught by my own teachers. Luang Pu, he's referring to himself, Luang Pu and the faculty teachers have been gradually becoming ancestral teachers, simply being intent on passing on the teachings to the next generation. And one day, in the future, when you have your own students, you must teach them as well as we have taught you. So, leave it with that. Any final questions, comments for myself or for Luang Pu?
Yeah, Luang Pu, the other day, maybe yesterday or a few days ago, you said that perception could be used skillfully. I remember as a reply to Shraddha, I think, a question she asked about something. You said that perception could be used skillfully.
Oh, yeah.
And I just I'm not clear as to how or what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, perception means, one is memory, so memory, image, theme, just so, like bringing something to mind is bringing it out of perception. So like the first thing that comes to mind is like the Girimananda Sutta. It's a very important sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, Anguttara 10s, and Anguttara 10, 60? Anyway, and that lists 10 different perceptions, like anicca sanya, like bringing to mind the perception of impermanence. Anatta sanya, bringing to mind the perception of not self, so that you're using perception to seed the mind with themes of Dhamma, and so that's certainly one way, in a kind of a formal way of using perception, but then also just using perception to, like, using memory, reminding oneself of things that are wholesome, like bringing to mind loving kindness, or memory of say the good someone has done. So they delighting in the goodness of others is using a perception of that goodness, or recollecting something that is, it's like recollection of death is a perception that stirs up energy, or can be used to do that. Of course, you can use it to sort of get yourself worried and fearful, but it's not so useful. But it's that use of perception.
I had a question about Hiri Ottappa.
Hiri-ottappa, yeah.
And how much is it? Because sometimes you know that you haven't done anything wrong. So there is no reason to feel guilty or feel shame, but someone else may have perceived it or misunderstood it and thought that you did do something wrong. And so should you still have, how does someone else's perception fit into Hiri Ottappa? And do you need to explain?
But it's somebody else's perception. You want to be reflecting and say, is that true? And is that true? Is it real? And if it's not, then it's not. You don't need to pick it up. I think it's important to separate it out. I mean, it's hard enough dealing with oneself, and trying to deal with the rest of the world is hopeless.
We'll never be how other people want us to be.
Yeah.
We can't possibly do that, because one person might want us to be one way, another person might want us to be another way. I think Luang Pu Cha said something like, if I always was how other people wanted me to be, I'd be dead.
So, what is meant by the 4 pairs and the eight kinds of noble beings?
It's path and fruit. So the path to stream entry is fruit of stream entry. Once returner, non-returner, arhat. So it's these 4 noble paths and 4 noble fruit. 4 pairs, 8 kinds of noble beings. Yeah, it's a. If you don't know the lingo, it's curious.
So in that case, does that mean that the path to stream entry, is that also like a non-regressive?
Depends. Especially path to stream entry.
A lot of different teachings on these. Like there's like, path occurs one my moment before fruit, or there's these different Abhidhamma-like teachings about it, but the way I hold it is more, I tend to be of the view that the Buddha spoke in a very realistic, everyday way and didn't expect that you're looking at things at that minute of a level. That so if you, at a certain point, you're practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, you're on the path to stream entry, and then you realize stream entry at a certain point, and then you might rest on your laurels for a while, and then at a certain point you might decide you want to level up, and then you go onto the path of once returner. And that's the way I kind of...
Yeah, I think in terms of the suttas, that's an appropriate sort of interpretation.
Because there's big arguments that happen about it, like, oh, well, there's this path and fruit happen one my moment apart from each other, and it's this instantaneous thing, and you know that pair, that's why it's a pair, and that pair is together, and so. But I mean, because the Buddha didn't ever explain it that way in the suttas, I don't really hold it that way.
Luang Pu, could you please offer some explanation of how to cultivate, like, to perceive the danger, like to, and I was curious about like feeling like vipaka kamma, like, I think there's something in the sutra where it says, you feel the feelings that you have to feel, but you don't create new feelings. So I was wondering if that was like a path of like reflection to build strength, to make a commitment.
Yes, I mean, in the sense that you want to be, because you don't really have, I mean, vipaka is the result of kamma, the fruits of kamma. And you don't have much control over that. What you do have control over is your present kamma. So then bringing to the fore a commitment to skillful application of one's efforts and intentions, and sometimes reflecting on the, say, fruition of kamma. But if you try to, I mean, that's one of the things the Buddha said, trying to figure this out in a minute sort of absolute, with that absolute certainty, is a good way to make your head explode. So better to get those general principles and commit to just that sense of, okay, I want to bring as much good as I can into the world. So I must, because it's obvious that brings happiness and well-being to myself and to others. Not get too caught up in the details of it.